everything's about to explode at Gdulkin. After that insane ending in episode 5. It's clear we've only scratched the surface of what's really happening with Dean, Cipher, Murray, and the mysterious man in the chamber. But episode 6? That's where the truth starts bleeding out literally and figuratively. Cipher's mask is slipping, and Murray's power is starting to feel less like a gift and more like a curse waiting to go off. Everyone's been talking about what's next for Project Odessa, but nobody's ready for how deep this thing goes. There's a shift coming at GodU. And the next episode is where we'll start to see who's pulling the strings, who's playing who, and who's actually in control. Because if episode 5 was the calm before the storm, episode 6 is the moment the sky splits open. The title of episode 6, Cooking Lessons, might sound harmless at first, but nothing about Gen V is ever simple. That title alone could be the biggest clue to what Cipher's really been planning all along. Because what if it isn't about food at all? What if it's about how he's been cooking up the next generation of soups, the enhanced kind? The ones designed, not born? That phrase could take us right back to the early experiments that created Murray in the first place. Back when Project Odessa was more than just a whispered secret. If Cipher was the chef behind all of that, then episode 6 might finally show us his recipe and the real cost of perfecting it. In episode 5, we watched Murray push her powers further than ever, bringing Annabeth back from the dead. That wasn't just a power flex. It was Cipher's confirmation that his miracle theory actually works. He wanted proof that Murray could break the barrier between life and death, and she did. But now, the question is why? Why is Cipher so obsessed with making her stronger? Why does he talk about miracles like a man possessed? I think Cipher's plan runs deeper than anyone realizes. The way he watched her bring Annabeth back, it wasn't pride. It was calculation. He's not training Murray out of compassion. He's programming her. Cipher knows exactly what Murray is capable of. And he's pushing her to the point where she's no longer just human or even soup. She's something entirely new. Someone who can manipulate blood, life, and death itself. That's not power, it's godhood. And if Cipher's really been keeping Thomas Gdulkin locked away, it makes sense why. Gdulkin wasn't just the creator of Gdulkin University. He was the one who designed the very system that turned kids into experiments. Cipher might not be his son like he claims. He could just be another one of Gdulkin's projects, one that went wrong but learned too much. That chamber scene from the last episode showed us just how twisted this whole thing is. The man inside, the one Cipher keeps alive, isn't just a sick old scientist. He's the brain behind everything that's gone wrong at GodU. My theory? Cipher isn't taking care of him. He's keeping him alive because he needs him. Cipher might be powerful and manipulative, but Gdulkin is the one who understands the formula, Project Odessa's blueprint. And without him, Cipher can't create more enhanced soups. Murray's blood might be the missing key to unlocking that formula again. That's why he's so fixated on her. And if we think about what we've seen so far, Cipher's lack of emotion, his eerie calmness when Sage hit him or when he was stabbed, it all lines up with the theory that he's being controlled, that he's not even the one in charge. What if Gdulkin is already in Cipher's mind, using his body as a vessel to continue his work? That would explain Cipher's obsession with creating the miracle soup. Maybe he's trying to use Murray's blood to restore Gdulkin's life, to give him a new body, one that can handle the enhanced compound V without breaking down. And who better to perfect that than Murray, the only success story of Project Odessa? But here's where it gets interesting. Sister Sage is no fool. She knows Cipher's hiding something, and with her sitting as Vought's new CEO, she's in the perfect position to take control. The way she looked at Cipher during those scenes in the chamber, it wasn't love, it was analysis. She's calculating every move, waiting for the right moment to take the science that created Murray and turn it into a business. Because if Vought can figure out how to make soups who don't just kill, but resurrect, that's not power anymore. That's ownership over life itself. And in the hands of someone like Sage, that's dangerous. Episode 6 could easily be the turning point where Cipher starts to lose his grip, and Murray begins to see through his manipulation. I think we'll see her powers evolve again, maybe in a way that even Cipher can't control. Remember how she said she feels connected to people through their blood? Imagine if she starts feeling that connection with the man in the chamber too. If she senses the truth that Cipher isn't the one pulling the strings, that he's just another puppet, it could completely change how she views her role in all this. Murray might think she's breaking free, but she's stepping right into the next stage of Cipher's plan, because Cipher or Gdulkin, depending on who's really in control, doesn't just want to create life. He wants to control it. And what better way than through Murray, the girl who can make blood obey her? The real cooking lesson might be about Cipher teaching Murray how to harness her godlike power, while slowly turning her into his ultimate weapon. Episode 6 is shaping up to be the moment where all of Cipher's lies start to crack. Because if you look closely, his entire plan has been building toward one thing: control. Not just over Marie, but over life and death itself. Cipher keeps acting like he's some kind of savior, pushing Marie to become the miracle. But the truth is, he's terrified. He's losing grip over the experiment he created. And the more Marie learns to use her power on her own terms, the more dangerous she becomes to him. Episode 6 might be where we finally see Marie stop being the student and start being the threat. And if Cipher's losing control, then Sister Sage is the one gaining it. She's quietly pulling all the strings at Vought. And I think episode 6 is going to expose just how far she's willing to go. She's the type of person who doesn't believe in chaos unless she's the one who caused it. She's seen Cipher's research, she's seen what Project Odessa could do. And now she wants to commercialize it. Imagine Vought turning Murray's blood into a product version of Compound V. That doesn't just create soups but revives them. That's something the world's never seen before. It would make Vought unstoppable, but let's talk about that man in the chamber again. Because the mystery around him keeps getting thicker. Cipher keeps calling him father. But we've never seen a single flashback proving that relationship. No pictures, no memories, nothing. That's weird, right? Especially for a man who's supposedly keeping his dying father alive. It makes more sense if this man is actually Thomas Gdulkin, the original creator of Project Odessa, and the mind behind Gdulkin University. If Gdulkin is the one in the chamber, then Cipher's just a vessel. A puppet being used by his former mentor. Think about it, Cipher doesn't feel pain, he doesn't bleed normally, and half the time, he doesn't even react like a human being. That's not because he's emotionless. It's because he's empty. If episode 6 dives into Cipher's backstory, I think we'll learn that he wasn't born powerful. He was built. Gdulkin must have used the early versions of Compound V to merge his consciousness with Cipher's body, keeping himself alive through him. That would explain why Cipher keeps calling Gdulkin father, because in a twisted way, he's the father of Cipher's body, his powers, his mind. Cipher isn't just protecting him, he's dependent on him. Without Gdulkin, Cipher probably can't survive. And if Marie's powers are the key to freeing Gdulkin's consciousness completely, that's why Cipher keeps pushing her to grow stronger. He's trying to finish what was started decades ago. Meanwhile, Marie's in a dangerous place mentally. She's trying to come to terms with what she's done, killing her parents, bringing her sister back, and realizing that her powers are connected to life itself. That kind of revelation can either break a person or turn them into something unstoppable. I think episode 6 will show Marie torn between guilt and purpose. She'll start to wonder if Cipher's words about miracles were ever real, or if he's just been using her from the start. But even with all her doubt, she won't stop training. Because deep down, Marie wants control too. She wants to understand her power before someone else uses it against her. Then there's the rest of the group. Sam, Emma, Jordan, and Polarity. They've all been through their own version of hell. But now they're coming back together, stronger and more dangerous than ever. After escaping Elmira, they've seen how far Vought will go to cover up the truth. I think episode 6 will focus on the group making it back to Godu, pretending everything's normal while secretly planning to expose Project Odessa. But here's the problem: they're walking right back into Cipher's trap. Every move they make is still part of his plan. He wants them back on campus because he knows Marie's powers grow when she's around people she cares about. He's using her emotions as fuel. Sister Sage, on the other hand, is 2 steps ahead of everyone. She's watching Cipher's operation crumble, but she's not stepping in yet. She's waiting for Marie to prove herself, to reach her full potential, and once that happens, Sage will step in and take everything Cipher's built. She doesn't need him alive. She just needs his work. The scary part is, Sage isn't driven by greed or fear, she's driven by logic. She knows exactly what Marie's blood can do, and she's already calculating how to use it to make Vought more powerful than ever. Episode 6 might also give us our first real look inside Cipher's mind, literally. If Gdulkin is controlling him, we could see Cipher fighting for control of his own consciousness. There could be moments where Cipher glitches, stutters, or starts talking to himself, showing that there's another voice in there. It won't be a full reveal yet, but just enough to make the audience question who's really speaking every time Cipher opens his mouth. And if Marie starts to sense that presence through her blood connection, that's where things get wild. She could feel Gdulkin's heartbeat or lack of it inside Cipher, realizing that the man standing in front of her isn't human anymore. It would be the moment where Marie understands that the real villain isn't Cipher alone, but the monster living inside him. That's when her powers will stop being a tool and start becoming her weapon. Because once Marie knows the truth, she won't just want to stop Cipher, she'll want to destroy everything that created him. But Cipher's too smart to let that happen easily. Every lesson, every test, every manipulation he's put Marie through, it's all been leading to one final experiment. And in episode 6, that experiment might finally begin. If there's one thing episode 6 is setting up perfectly, it's the breaking point, the moment where everything Cipher built starts to fall apart. He's been pretending to hold all the cards, but the cracks in his plan are spreading fast. The more he tries to shape Marie into his miracle, the more unpredictable she becomes. And that unpredictability? That's what's going to destroy him. Cipher believes he's studying Marie, but really, she's the one who's starting to see through him. Piece by piece, she's realizing that every word he's spoken about destiny and purpose was just another layer of control. And once Marie figures that out, Cipher's manipulation won't just fail, it'll backfire. The next episode could start to expose how Cipher's experiments tie directly into the bigger story of Vought's corruption. Project Odessa isn't just a side experiment. It's the company's backup plan. Homelander might represent their public image of power, but Project Odessa is the secret weapon. A way to create soups who can't die, who can be reborn over and over again. That's the kind of control Vought dreams about, not just over heroes, but over mortality itself. And Marie is the first successful test subject. The irony? She was never meant to survive. She's walking proof that something went right when everything else went wrong, and Cipher knows it. That's why he's obsessed with keeping her close. It's not about mentorship. It's about containment. Marie represents both his greatest achievement and his biggest threat. If she ever learns how her powers truly work, how her blood interacts with Compound V on a molecular level, she could replicate it herself. Cipher's afraid of that. Because once Marie doesn't need him anymore, he becomes irrelevant. And in Cipher's world, irrelevance is death. But Cipher's biggest mistake might be underestimating how connected the group has become. Sam's newfound confidence after facing his parents means he's no longer the scared boy Cipher could manipulate. Emma's loyalty to Marie has deepened since watching her bring Annabeth back. She's no longer afraid to fight back. And Jordan? They've seen Cipher's power firsthand, felt his control inside their mind, and survived it. That's not something anyone forgets. These characters are broken, yes, but they've learned to use their pain as armor. Episode 6 could be where they stop reacting and start fighting back. Then there's Polarity, the wild card in all of this. The man's been living under the shadow of his own guilt, drowning in regret and booze. But Cipher's confession about Andre's death lit a fire in him. That one truth changed everything. Cipher telling him that Andre died because he pushed him too far wasn't just manipulation. It was an insult. Polarity's ego won't let that go unpunished. And if episode 6 shows Polarity sobering up, that's when Cipher's real problem begins. Because Polarity isn't just a grieving father, he's a soup with decades of experience, and now he's fueled by revenge. That combination makes him more dangerous than any of the students. But the most chilling part is how Cipher seems completely unfazed by all of this. The calmness, the emptiness in his face, the way he barely reacts to pain or emotion. It's not human. It's mechanical. That's why I'm convinced Cipher's no longer fully in control of himself. Those little moments where his tone shifts or his eyes go blank aren't just acting. They're signals. Gdulkin's presence is bleeding through, fighting for dominance. Episode 6 could start showing Cipher glitching in his speech or freezing mid-sentence. Like he's hearing a voice inside his head. A voice giving him orders. That would confirm everything we've been suspecting, that Gdulkin is still alive inside him. Using Cipher as a host to finish his own work, Marie, meanwhile, might begin to feel that connection. She's always sensed things others couldn't, heartbeats, blood flow, even the faint energy inside people. If she starts feeling a second pulse inside Cipher, it's over. Because that would mean she can literally feel Gdulkin's existence. That moment of realization could flip everything. Imagine her realizing that every word Cipher spoke was actually Gdulkin's manipulation. The same man who designed the program that ruined her life. That would turn her grief into rage. Episode 6 could be where Marie finally decides to stop listening and start acting. And once she does, Cipher's entire experiment unravels, but Marie's powers are unstable. They react to her emotions, and Cipher knows that. If she gets angry, if she loses control, the result could be catastrophic. Remember what we saw when she brought Annabeth back? Her veins glowed, the air around her shifted. And for a second, it looked like she was pulling energy from everything nearby. That wasn't just blood manipulation. That was life force manipulation. If she reaches that state again, but this time out of rage, she could destroy Cipher, Gdulkin, or even herself. That's what Cipher's gambling on, that she'll unleash that kind of power under his supervision, giving him the chance to measure it, record it, maybe even steal it. The biggest twist could be that Cipher doesn't actually want to control Marie. He wants to be her. He's looking for a way to transfer his consciousness or Gdulkin's into her body. The chamber could be more than just a containment unit, it could be a vessel transfer machine. A failed prototype waiting for the perfect subject. And if Cipher's body starts deteriorating because of Gdulkin's control, that might push him to act now. Episode 6 could be where Cipher finally tries to use Marie's powers to bring Gdulkin fully back. Not as an old dying man, but as something new, something created through Marie's blood, and if that's true, then the episode won't just be about Marie discovering her power. It'll be about her fighting to keep her soul. Cipher might call it a lesson, but the only thing he's teaching her is how to become his next experiment. If there's one thing Gen V does better than any other show in the boys' universe, it's turning every answer into a bigger question. And episode 6 feels like the one where that pattern hits its peak. The truth finally starts to show, but not in a way anyone expects. Cipher's confidence, that quiet arrogance he's worn since the beginning, is finally about to be tested. He's been the puppeteer all season, but his strings are starting to tangle and you can feel it. Every move he's made, every word he's whispered into Marie's head, has been part of a long con. But what he didn't count on is how fast Marie's evolving, how fast she's learning. Not just what she can do, but who she is. And that realization is the one thing Cipher can't control. If episode 6 plays out the way it's been building, we might see Marie take the first real step toward independence, not just emotionally, but physically. Her powers are changing. When she brought Annabeth back, that wasn't a random miracle. That was the moment her blood started rewriting the rules of Compound V. She's not just manipulating blood anymore, she's rewriting DNA. And that's what Cipher's afraid of. Because once Marie learns how to consciously manipulate the structure of life itself, she won't need any formulas, chambers, or scientists. She is the formula now. And that makes her more dangerous than any soup Vought's ever created. But it also makes her a target. Vought doesn't let power like that walk around unmonitored. Sister Sage, sitting up top as CEO, has already realized that Cipher's obsession with Marie could be her biggest opportunity. Episode 6 could show her moving pieces quietly behind the scenes. Vought agents arriving at Gdulkin, secret data transfers, the usual corporate chess game. She's not going to attack Cipher directly. She'll wait until he's distracted, then swoop in to take everything he's built. To her, Cipher's just another failed genius with emotional baggage. But Marie is the future. The next generation of soups, designed for absolute obedience once Vought gets their hands on her. And if Sage has already cracked how Cipher's been experimenting with the enhanced Compound V, she might already have the next phase in development, a formula based on Marie's blood. But Cipher won't let that happen without a fight. He's obsessed with Marie in a way that feels personal, not just scientific. It's like he sees himself in her. Maybe because he knows what it's like to be someone's experiment. Maybe because deep down, he remembers the moment Gdulkin turned him into what he is now. If Gdulkin is inside him, feeding off his life, controlling his actions, then Cipher might be trying to do the same thing to Marie to prove he's not just a puppet anymore. Episode 6 could show Cipher trying to break free from Gdulkin's control, even if it means sacrificing Marie in the process. And that's where the tragedy lies. Cipher isn't evil for the sake of being evil. He's a man who's been trapped for too long, trying to take back his own freedom by stealing someone else's. The chamber, that cold, humming machine in the basement, has become the symbol of everything Cipher's hiding. I think in episode 6, we'll finally see what it really does. Maybe it's not just keeping Gdulkin alive. Maybe it's transferring data, memories, thoughts, consciousness from one body to another. Cipher could have been using that technology to slowly imprint Gdulkin's mind onto his own, explaining his strange, mechanical behavior. And now, with Marie's blood acting as a perfect stabilizer, Cipher might finally have the key to completing the transfer. Imagine that scene, Cipher standing over Marie, realizing that all his pain, all his years of servitude under Gdulkin, are about to end once he moves Gdulkin's mind into Marie's body. It's twisted, it's dark, and it's exactly the kind of horror that Gen V thrives on. But Marie isn't as helpless as Cipher thinks. She's been observing him, listening to his tone, studying his words. Every time Cipher calls her miracle, it sounds less like praise and more like possession. Episode 6 might be where she finally confronts him, not with anger, but with understanding. She's realizing that Cipher doesn't want to create life. He wants to own it. That realization could ignite something new inside her. Her power has always been connected to emotion, fear, guilt, love, but now she's channeling clarity. She's no longer reacting. She's choosing. And once she chooses to fight back, Cipher's science doesn't stand a chance. Meanwhile, back on the surface, the group's reunion is about to take a darker turn. Escaping Elmira was supposed to be the end of their nightmare, but it's just the beginning. Returning to Gdulkin means walking right into Cipher's web, and they don't even know it yet. Sam's trying to hold everyone together, but he's starting to sense that Marie's different, colder, quieter, more focused. Emma can feel it too. The bond they all had is changing, replaced by something heavier: guilt, fear, distrust. They're starting to realize that they're not just friends anymore. They're survivors of a scientific war they never asked to be part of. And Cipher's fingerprints are all over it. Jordan, who's always been the voice of reason, could start digging into Cipher's history. They might find old records, lab reports, experiment logs, footage from the early Project Odessa days, and start piecing together the truth. Maybe they find out that Cipher was never supposed to exist, that he was a failed experiment resurrected through early versions of Compound V. That would change everything. It would prove that Cipher isn't human in the way he pretends to be. He's a prototype, a shell, a test for what Murray has now perfected. And if that's true, Cipher's greatest fear will finally come true, his creation surpassing him. Episode 6 might end with that realization. Cipher watching Murray from across the lab, seeing her blood pulse with energy, and realizing that the thing he's been trying to control is no longer his creation. It's his replacement. The puppet he's been using is about to cut the strings herself. And that's when Cipher, for the first time, might show fear. By the time we reach the end of episode 6, it's clear the balance of power has completely flipped. Cipher's not the one in control anymore. He's the one being hunted, not by Vought or Gdulkin, but by his own creation. The same girl he tried to manipulate into a weapon is the one rewriting his story in real time. Murray's transformation isn't just physical. It's emotional, even spiritual, in a way that Gen V hasn't touched before. For the first time, she's not just surviving the chaos around her.